He was calm, wise, and full of faith. His smile felt peaceful. His words carried meaning, and fans of The Chosen saw him as the heart of the disciples. But then, without warning, he disappeared. Yoshi Barrigas, the man who brought Philip to life, was suddenly gone from the show that made him a beloved figure. What really happened? Why did he leave when everything seemed perfect? Let's take a closer look at the man behind the role, and the quiet reasons that might explain his choice. Before we talk about his exit, it's important to understand who Yoshi Barrigas is beyond the screen. Yoshi isn't just another actor who happened to land a big role. His journey was shaped by patience, faith, and a desire for meaning. Born and raised in California, he grew up with a creative spirit and a deep curiosity about people. Acting wasn't just a job for him. It was a way to explore truth, emotion, and purpose. That mindset would later make him a perfect fit for The Chosen, a show that blends storytelling with deep spiritual reflection. Before joining The Chosen, Yoshi worked in smaller projects, always searching for roles that allowed him to show real emotion and honesty. He wasn't chasing fame or attention. He wanted to be part of something that mattered. When The Chosen came along, a show built on faith, love, and humanity, it felt like the right calling. His audition wasn't about showing off. It was about being present, calm, and sincere. That's exactly what the creators saw in him. A natural piece that could bring Philip, one of Jesus' closest followers, to life. Once he joined the cast, Yoshi quickly became known for his kindness and humble energy. Behind the scenes, castmates often mentioned how he made others feel grounded, how he brought a sense of stillness even during long, tiring days of shooting. He didn't just act out Philip's words, he lived them. Fans could feel that connection every time he appeared on screen. The way he smiled, the way he spoke to Matthew or shared lessons with others. It all felt genuine. His portrayal of Philip wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet and powerful. That's what made it special. Many viewers said that watching him reminded them of peace and faith in a chaotic world. Some even said Yoshi's Philip helped them reconnect with their own spiritual side. That kind of impact doesn't happen often in television. It happens when an actor's heart aligns with his role. And for a while, that's exactly what seemed to happen with Yoshi. But behind every powerful performance, there's a personal story. And Yoshi's story was not just about being part of a successful show. It was also about his own inner growth and search for purpose. In interviews, he often spoke about how acting in The Chosen helped him see faith differently. He said it wasn't just a role. It was something that shaped his own journey with God, for him. Being Philip wasn't about pretending, it was about learning. That's why his sudden disappearance left such a mark. Fans weren't just missing a character. They were missing someone who had touched their hearts. Before we dive into what happened next, it's important to remember that Yoshi Barrigas isn't just the guy who left the show. He's an artist, a believer, and a man still walking his own spiritual path, one that began long before The Chosen, and one that may have led him to make the difficult decision we're all still talking about. From the moment Yoshi Barrigas stepped onto the set of The Chosen, something just clicked, not only for him, but for everyone watching. There was something different about the way he carried himself. His energy wasn't loud or commanding. It was peaceful, magnetic, and quietly powerful. As soon as he appeared as Philip, fans noticed. His eyes carried warmth, his smile felt reassuring, and his calm voice made even simple lines sound meaningful. He didn't need to fight for attention, his presence spoke for itself. Philip first entered the series during a time when the disciples were still figuring out their place beside Jesus. He was known as the optimist, the one who believed without hesitation, who smiled through doubt, and who carried hope like it was second nature. Yoshi portrayed that spirit perfectly. It was almost as if he was born to play this role. Every scene he was in felt grounded, like the chaos of the world stopped for a moment whenever Philip spoke. As seasons went on, fans grew to love him even more. His friendship with Matthew became one of the most heartwarming storylines in the entire series. The chemistry between the two was genuine. It wasn't forced or overly dramatic. It was simple, real, and deeply human. Yoshi made sure that Philip wasn't just another disciple in the background. He became a symbol of peace and understanding. He was the one who asked questions with faith, not doubt. He was the calm voice when others were afraid. Behind the scenes, the cast often described Yoshi as a grounding presence. During long filming days under the hot Texas sun, he would bring laughter, quiet reflection, and encouragement to those around him. Many crew members mentioned how his approach to acting wasn't just about delivering lines, it was about understanding what those lines meant. When he said, "Follow me," it didn't sound like acting. It sounded like an invitation to something deeper. In fan communities online, people shared how Philip's scenes helped them through hard times. Some said his words brought them peace during moments of doubt. Others said Yoshi's performance felt like a reflection of their own faith journeys. The impact went beyond the screen. It touched people's hearts. Few characters in The Chosen managed to leave such a lasting impression in such a short time. But as The Chosen grew in popularity, so did the weight of its expectations. Playing a biblical role isn't easy. It's not just about accuracy, it's about embodying a spiritual truth, one that millions of viewers connect with deeply. For Yoshi, that connection was both a gift and a responsibility. He often spoke about how the show helped him grow spiritually and emotionally. He wasn't just acting in a story about faith, he was living it, reflecting on it, learning from it. And that's what made his eventual disappearance so shocking. Because Yoshi's version of Philip wasn't just loved, it felt necessary. He brought a sense of calm to the chaos, a balance to the intensity. When fans watched Season 3 end, they assumed Philip would return with more wisdom and more heart. But when the news came that he wouldn't, it hit hard. People weren't just wondering what would happen to the character, they wanted to know what happened to Yoshi. At that moment, his story shifted from being about a character on a show to something much deeper, a real person. Stepping away from something beautiful for reasons we couldn't yet understand. And that's where the mystery began. It happened quietly, no big announcement, no emotional farewell, no warning at all. One day, Yoshi Barrigas was there, lighting up the screen as Philip, and the next, he was gone. Fans who tuned in to new, The Chosen updates started to notice something strange. No mention of Philip in behind-the-scenes photos. No lines about his return, and not even a small cameo. It felt almost like a missing piece in a puzzle that no one knew was missing until they saw the gap. For a while, everyone thought maybe it was just part of the storyline. Maybe Philip was off on another mission, spreading the word as disciples often did. But as more news and cast details came out, the truth began to settle in. Yoshi Barrigas was no longer part of The Chosen. And that realization hit hard. This wasn't just another recast or character shift. It was the sudden disappearance of a figure fans had come to love deeply. The online reaction was immediate. Reddit threads, Facebook groups, and comment sections were filled with one burning question: where is Philip? Some people speculated that he'd return later in the season. Others feared that behind the scenes, something serious had happened. A few even guessed that Yoshi had fallen out with the production team. But there were no clues, no posts from Yoshi, no statements from the show, just silence. And in that silence, curiosity turned into concern. The mystery deepened when even the show's creator, Dallas Jenkins, avoided direct answers in early interviews. He praised Yoshi's performance, called him a wonderful soul, but never explained why he left. That vagueness made the situation even more emotional for fans. It wasn't anger they felt, it was sadness. Because Yoshi's Philip wasn't just a role. He represented something bigger: peace, patience, and faith. Losing that presence felt like losing part of the heart of The Chosen. Some devoted viewers began rewatching old episodes, searching for clues, small moments that might hint at his departure. They noticed Philip's story seemed to slow down in later episodes, as if his path was quietly wrapping up. Whether it was intentional or not, scenes felt like a goodbye we never realized we were watching. And through all this, Yoshi remained silent. No interviews, no official explanation, no emotional goodbye post. Just stillness. For an actor known for calmness and quiet wisdom, the silence almost felt fitting. But it also made his absence louder. What made this even more interesting was how the Chosen community responded. Instead of outrage, most people expressed gratitude. They thanked Yoshi for his role, shared clips of their favorite Philip moments, and prayed for whatever new journey he was on. It showed the depth of connection he had built, not just as a performer, but as a person of faith. Still, the question hung in the air: why? Why walk away from a show that had changed lives, including his own? Why leave at the height of love and success? It was a mystery no one could solve, not until Yoshi himself chose to speak. And when? When Yoshi Barrigas finally broke his silence, he didn't give a dramatic press statement or a long explanation. He didn't speak through publicists or make headlines. Instead, he did what he always does. He spoke softly, honestly, and from the heart. His words weren't about leaving a show. They were about following something bigger. In a short message shared online, Yoshi hinted that his departure wasn't about conflict or disappointment. It was about timing, about listening to something within. He mentioned that he was entering a new season of life, and that he felt led to step back and trust where God was taking him next. It wasn't said with sadness, but with peace. That's what made it powerful. It wasn't a goodbye full of regret. It was a gentle turning of the page. Fans who read his words could feel his calm spirit in every sentence. He thanked the creators, his castmates, and the fans who had supported him. He didn't blame anyone, didn't speak in anger. He simply expressed gratitude. In one part, he wrote that sometimes obedience looks like walking away. That single line struck a chord with thousands of people. It reminded them that even when something seems perfect, sometimes the right choice is to let go. Soon after his post, fans and fellow cast members began responding with love and encouragement. They called him a light, a true disciple, and someone who lived what he preached. It was clear that Yoshi hadn't just left a role. He had left an impression that reached far beyond the screen. Many followers of The Chosen understood his message in a deeper way. The show itself teaches that faith often means stepping into the unknown, trusting without seeing the full plan. In a strange way, Yoshi was living out the very lessons The Chosen tried to share with the world. His choice wasn't about leaving a job. It was about living his faith. For those who were hoping for details, though, his message left more questions than answers. There were no mentions of upcoming projects or future roles. He didn't hint at whether he would ever return. But maybe that was the point. Maybe his story wasn't meant to be wrapped up neatly. Maybe it was meant to remind us that peace doesn't always come from knowing. It comes from trusting. Still, for fans who had grown attached to Philip's kindness and humor, the reality of his absence was hard to accept. Yoshi's calm and joy had become part of The Chosen's heartbeat, and without him, that rhythm felt different. Yet, as his words spread across fan pages, something changed. People stopped asking, "Why did he leave?" and began saying, "I hope he's where he needs to be." And maybe that's exactly what Yoshi wanted. Not attention, not explanation, but understanding. His message wasn't about the end of something. It was about faith in transition, a quiet reminder that life, like art, moves in seasons. And Yoshi Barrigas had simply stepped into his next one. Behind the camera, away from the bright lights and perfectly framed scenes, life for an actor can be very different. The world sees the smiles, the applause, and the finished product. But what they don't see are the quiet moments, the waiting. It's the pressure, the emotional weight that comes with telling sacred stories. For Yoshi Barrigas, The Chosen was never just a show. It was a spiritual experience. But even something good, something meaningful, can become heavy when your soul starts to shift. There's a saying in the film world, you don't just play the character plays you. And that's what happened with Yoshi. Philip's peaceful nature, his faith, his trust, they weren't just traits he pretended to have. They became part of him. He carried Philip's heart both on and off set. But as the seasons went on, the role demanded more time, more travel, more emotional energy. Living that depth, day after day, can be both beautiful and exhausting. Sources close to the production mentioned that Yoshi had been quietly reflecting on his path even before Season 3 finished. He spoke often about listening to God's timing and being at peace with change. It wasn't that he didn't love The Chosen, he did. But sometimes, love requires space. For an artist like Yoshi, whose spirit is deeply tied to his work, stepping back wasn't rejection. It was renewal. There's also the personal side, one that rarely makes headlines. The long hours of filming, months away from family in familiar places, and the mental discipline needed to stay grounded in such an intense spiritual role can take a toll. Yoshi once mentioned in an interview that The Chosen taught him patience, but also revealed parts of himself that needed rest. Imagine carrying the weight of portraying a disciple of Christ. It's not just acting, it's living under a light that reaches millions. That kind of responsibility can quietly wear you down. Some insiders believe Yoshi wanted to focus on his creative growth. He's not only an actor, but also a writer, thinker, and musician. Walking away might have been his way of making room for something new. Sometimes the hardest part of growth is leaving behind something that still feels good. But that's what maturity looks like, choosing purpose over comfort. Others have suggested that his choice was more spiritual than professional. The Chosen is built around faith, and faith is about listening to the still, small voice inside. Maybe that voice told Yoshi his mission in the show was complete. Maybe it told him his next chapter wouldn't be in front of the same cameras. Whatever the reason, it's clear that his decision wasn't made in haste. It was made with reflection and peace. For fans, it's easy to see this as a loss. But for Yoshi, it might have been an act of obedience, the kind that doesn't make sense until later. After all, the real story of Philip was about following Jesus, even when the path was unclear. And maybe that's exactly what Yoshi was doing. He's following a call only he could hear. The truth behind his exit might not be one single event or reason. It's likely a mix of personal, creative, spiritual shifts, a quiet realization that his journey with the Chosen had reached its natural end. And in the end, that's what makes it beautiful. He left not because he had to, but because he was ready when Yoshi Barrigas stepped away. The Chosen faced a quiet but powerful challenge. How do you move forward without the calm heart that once balanced the storm? Philip wasn't just another disciple. He was the smile in the middle of tension, the gentle reminder of faith when others doubted. His absence was felt immediately, even in the scenes where no one mentioned him. The silence where his voice used to be almost became its own character. As Season 4 began to take shape, fans noticed something different. The story carried a heavier tone, more conflict, deeper questions, and growing pressure around Jesus' ministry. It made sense, both narratively and emotionally. Philip's peaceful energy had always brought lightness to serious moments, so his departure added a layer of realism. Sometimes faith stories are not just about presence, but about loss and learning to continue without certain people, the creators of The Chosen. Led by Dallas Jenkins, handled Yoshi's absence with care. They didn't rush to replace him or erase him. Instead, they allowed the story to breathe. The disciples continued their journey, growing in their own ways, while Philip's influence lingered like a quiet echo. That was the beauty of it. Even though Yoshi was gone, Philip still existed through the lessons he left behind. For many viewers, that subtle approach felt right. Life doesn't always give us big goodbyes. Sometimes people simply move on, and their memory becomes part of who we are. The Chosen mirrored that truth beautifully. Fans began to see Philip's departure not as a loss, but as a reminder of how faith continues even when familiar faces fade away. Online discussions became softer, more understanding. People stopped demanding answers and started celebrating what Philip had meant to them. Memes, fan edits, and tribute videos flooded social media, not out of anger, but love. One fan wrote, "Philip taught me that following Christ isn't about staying comfortable, it's about moving when God says move." That comment alone seemed to capture the entire moment. Behind the scenes, there's no sign of bitterness or conflict. Cast members have continued to express admiration for Yoshi, calling him a joy to work with and a true reflection of humility. Dallas Jenkins himself praised Yoshi's heart, saying in interviews that his time on The Chosen made the show richer and more human. Rare in Hollywood to see a departure handled with such grace, and that speaks volumes about both sides as The Chosen expands into future seasons. The world within it continues to evolve. New disciples are introduced, existing ones take on greater depth, and the story pushes toward the events that shaped history. And though Philip's role may be paused, or perhaps complete, his spirit lingers in every moment of hope, every moment of quiet understanding. For longtime fans, the question of whether Yoshi will ever return remains open. Maybe one day he will reappear, even briefly, to bring closure to Philip's journey. Or maybe his story has already reached its perfect end. A reminder that sometimes the most meaningful exits are the ones that happen softly, without spotlight or applause. In the end, The Chosen continues, stronger and deeper, carrying the legacy of every actor who helped shape it. But no matter how far the story goes, Yoshi Barrigas' Philip will always remain one of its most beloved lights, a symbol of peace, faith, and quiet strength that no new character can ever truly replace. Change is never easy, not for the ones who make it, and not for the ones who watch it happen. When Yoshi Barrigas walked away from The Chosen, he didn't just leave a set. He left behind a version of peace that viewers had grown attached to. His character, Philip, was a bridge between faith and reason. Joy and stillness, and losing that presence left a quiet ache. But perhaps, in a way, that's exactly how his story was meant to end, not with a shout, but with a whisper that still echoes. Yoshi's journey reminds us that life, much like art, is made up of seasons. There are times to build, times to shine, and times to step away. His decision wasn't a retreat. It was a step into something unseen, something personal. For fans, it may feel unfinished, but for Yoshi, it may have been complete. The most powerful stories are the ones that end when they're meant to, not when we expect them to. What makes Yoshi's exit so meaningful is how it reflects the very message of The Chosen itself. The show has always been about listening to God's call, even when the path ahead doesn't make sense. Philip followed Jesus without question, trusting that every step, even the uncertain ones, had purpose. In a way, Yoshi did the same. By walking away, he showed that faith isn't about staying where it's safe. It's about moving forward when your heart says it's time. His departure leaves behind a legacy, not of absence but of presence, the kind that stays in spirit even when it's no longer on screen. Every smile he shared, every calm word he delivered, still lives within the story's rhythm. Fans continue to quote his lines, replay his scenes, and remember that peace he brought to the screen. That's the mark of a true artist, when the work remains long after the performer steps away. And for The Chosen, the story moves on because that's what stories of faith do. They continue, adapt, and find new ways to touch hearts. But there will always be a place for Philip in the hearts of those who watched him bring hope to the world. Even for a little while. Maybe one day Yoshi Barrigas will return. Or maybe his journey will lead him somewhere completely different, somewhere he can keep inspiring others in new ways. Whatever happens next, his story stands as a gentle reminder that walking away doesn't mean the end. Sometimes it's just the beginning of something else. To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. That verse from Ecclesiastes fits perfectly here. Because in Yoshi's story, as in Philip's, the act of leaving wasn't about loss, it was about trust. And maybe, just maybe, that's the truest example of faith we'll ever see. So the next time you watch The Chosen and notice Philip missing, don't see it as an ending. See it as a reflection of life itself, full of change, purpose, and divine timing. After all, Yoshi Barrigas didn't quit The Chosen. He simply followed his own calling.